hear you. So I'll start with a story. When I was a psychology student, I had a senior professor who would very frequently come to our lectures and tell us that psychology will save the world. Now, me and my fellow students would roll our eyes, something that I know my students never do in my classes. And we would just kind of wave this statement as something that probably biology students hear about biology from their biology professors, and something that engineering students probably hear about engineering from their engineering professors. I have to admit that years later, I actually have found a different and deeper meaning in this statement, and this is what I would like to share with you today. So, the reason that I'm here with talking about psychological and behavioral insights is because in the last years, really a little over a decade, a new area of knowledge called behavioral economics has really received recognition. And what behavioral economics is all about is applying a psychology lens on a variety of socioeconomic contexts to really understand how people make decisions, how they arrive at their judgments, which lead them then to engage in different behavior in everyday life. So the types of questions that behavioral economists would really seek answers to is, why is it that for decisions such as retirement planning, we would make such serious mistakes as to procrastinate it or never save enough? In other words, we all are intelligent enough to recognize the importance of retirement planning in order to secure higher quality of life for us, not for others, for us. But yet, when we have the opportunity to do that, we actually decide to spend our money on things which are much, much less important, such as maybe having a little bit more new clothes, or maybe going to a fancier restaurant. So behavioral economists really try to understand what in our decision-making processes makes us do that. Another example, which I'm sure that nobody here can relate to, but I'll still give it because I've heard people do that. So behavioral economists would try to understand, why is it that we wake up today and we promise ourselves, all right, between now and that beach holiday that's coming up, no sweets, only to find ourselves several hours later finishing up a chocolate cake. So what is it? Why does it happen so that we don't keep our own promises to ourselves? So at the core of behavioral economics knowledge is a theory that explains that our brain really functions in two systems. There is a system which is much more instant and impatient to make decisions. Sometimes it's very snap with decisions, and it leans on things such as impressions or what others are doing in the current moment. We also have a more complex system, system 2, that actually engages cognitive resources that in the decision process look for all sorts of information that they have access to. Analyze the different options, the different choices we have, analyze the different implications that these choices might lead to, and then, after more time and more effort, end up leading us to a decision or a choice that is more rational and usually more logical than what System 1 does. What we know is that a healthy human being uses a combination of System 1 and System 2. When we know this, what actually can we use that knowledge for? In fact, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the many solutions that behavioral economics has already produced. But one, for example, is to design more relevant retirement planning policies that actually benefit from that same mechanism that makes you fail on your promise for the chocolate cake. So we use these mistakes that we know we're going to engage in to actually design processes, solutions that will make it more natural for us to follow. A lot of my research leaned on the authors who later became the leaders of behavioral economics knowledge. And so with time, I looked for ways to apply behavioral economics knowledge to what I am passionate about and what I know some of you are passionate about, and that's marketing. And in my case, I actually applied it specifically to the context of a very exciting industry, which is the travel industry. And why was this becoming more and more relevant, and why has this kept me busy in the last years? Well, our consumers are making more and more decisions on the go because they have the wearable technology, they have the mobile technology. In other words, using more snap decision making to make the purchase decisions, which means more system one and less system two. So this is what made it relevant for me to dive deeper into behavioral insights and apply them to travel industry and marketing in travel industry. Now, as I was going into that, I started asking myself something, and that's, can behavioral insights do more than provide us with opportunities to improve the profitability and the effectiveness of our marketing efforts? Can it help solve one of the biggest challenges of an otherwise very healthy, very fast-growing industry? And just like many other industries, it's dealing with how to manage its negative impact. So while tourism generates a lot of positive economic benefits for places and for businesses, it also, unfortunately, is one of the biggest contributors to global warming, to unsustainable development. So think about this. If we can do something even small to change even a little bit the behavior of all of these people, their inclination to take their trash with them or recycle it, to save a little bit more water when they shower in the hotel, or to stay really on the path that was designed in a cultural attraction or a national park, this can make a huge impact. Let's look at what's been happening in terms of managing that footprint that we realize is so significant. The thing that has been happening in the industry is that we have been relying on education, on making people aware that what they do, the way that they behave in places when they travel, actually has a huge impact. Except that, from behavioral insights, we know that traveler behavior is actually quite specific. It is specific because when we travel, we actually release control on our behavior, even behavior that might be considered a habit when we are at home. So even if at home I regularly recycle, I always turn my lamp off when I leave the room or the apartment, and I am conscious about saving water, when I go on holiday, I actually might very well not do that. You can see that as almost letting my self-control go on holiday as well. The second thing that we know about traveler behavior is that people actually perceive the environment and their impact in that environment in new places, places which are not home, very differently. So if I am visiting a new place and I assume I might not be coming back any soon, I actually perceive also the impact from my behavior as temporary. So if I'm not going to come back to that street corner again, or if I'm not going to go to that museum again, whatever I do there actually has temporary impact. Okay? It's a little bit of the what stays in Vegas type of effect. We have a huge industry which really has a humongous impact on the well-being of our planet and places. And we also have psychological factors which really prevent us from finding or from seeing great impact from the things that we have been doing so far. And I would like to use here a quote from one of the big names in behavioral economics, Dan Ariely, who says that if you were really to sit and think about a problem that people would absolutely not care about, this would be climate change. Okay, so we already know that the size of the problem as well as the psychological factors make it very difficult for us to improve the situation through education. Why is it difficult? Because A, we have 1.2 billion travelers for last year, so while it's a noble idea to educate all of them, I seriously doubt that it's realistic, right? And even if we educate them, we know that they release those controls and that knowledge when they're in leisure mode, and they basically do what is easiest and what is most pleasurable to do, even with that knowledge at hand. So, the suggestion that I have is that now, from behavioral knowledge, we actually have enough to move from a strategy of educating to a strategy of nudging and leading people to actually do the thing that is right, that we know is right for the industry and right for the planet. And what is the suggestion that I have specifically targeting the travel industry or all of these many hotels and restaurants and tourism service providers around the world? My suggestion, my idea, is to ask them to stop fooling themselves that we can educate everybody. And if we accept that reality, we will see that these individual operators have the opportunity to instill solutions that we will find natural because they will be aligned with our behavioral principles. One of the solutions, I think, is actually to limit options and choices. Why would you make it possible for people to engage in decision making and choose an option which we know is bad for the industry and also bad for the planet? Usually, when we introduce such ideas, we refer to some high-profile academic research. What I'm going to do is actually share with you insights that actually our own AUBG students generated here on campus. My brilliant consumer behavior students were asked to think about behavioral insights that can help solve some footprint challenges here on campus. And the one that I'm going to focus on is the use of the terrace door at ABF Cafe, which, in addition to many other things, actually leads to much higher energy bills. So my students were tasked with finding out what would work best, giving people a reward to actually engage in the right behavior, punishing them with some very bothering alarm sounds and bothering karaoke version of Adele when they open the door, trying to evoke guilt by informing people that the energy bill is really growing when the door is opened, or eliminate the alternative altogether. And while many of the solutions that they came up with actually did have an impact, the only solution that led to 100% solving of the problem was eliminating of the option. So, I know it's a little bit bizarre for a marketeer to say that eliminating choices and allowing consumers to make less choices is actually a great solution. But this is exactly what I would like to say. Because if the industry, if all of these businesses actually do very cheap, by the way, and easy solutions like that on a very small scale, and we as travelers accept that we're going to go along with these solutions, what we're going to do is basically crowdsource a better future for a very, very exciting industry. And all of us will have an opportunity to contribute through our better understanding of our behavior to a much more sustainable and much more happy industry in the future. Thank you so much.